Maybe just I want to finish on China. You mentioned that it's like the single biggest trading partner for everybody in that region and pretty much the world. 10 years from now, what does the U.S. look like in comparison to China? And is that dependent on a few strands, on a few turns here and there? They say that their real estate industry is really hurting. They say their economy is under pressure. But it's really hard to tell what's actually true about China versus what's actually true about the United States. And like you said, the Trump show, a lot of it is theater. And so I'm curious what you see as maybe some of the important decisions the United States has to make about where that rivalry ends up in 10 years.
I think to understand China, you need to know its history. And except for the Mongolian dynasty in the 13th century, China has not attacked anybody else. The Chinese have always viewed their civilization as the center of the universe. There's no real interest in going anywhere else. Now, they may go elsewhere to cultivate business, and they're very good at that. And ultimately, they annoy and irritate the countries in which they reside, and they're thrown out. That happened in Indonesia. It's happened in Malaysia. It's happened in Vietnam. The Koreans and the Japanese are very, very sensitive to the numbers of Chinese in their countries. When I was last over there, I talked to some Japanese businessmen. This goes back 10 years. And they said, "You Americans make no sense." I said, "What do you mean?" Obviously, I agreed, but I wanted to know what his reason was. And he said, "Do you see any Chinese in our laboratories, in our universities, involved in anything remotely important to the Japanese nation in terms of engineering, science, and technology?" I said, "Well, I suppose not." He said, "Of course not." He said, "For 2,000 years, the Chinese that left China to do business elsewhere were always given instructions that if they find anything of value or use, send it home to China." That's what they do. China is not a military threat. If you look at their investments in military power, all of it is designed to do what? Deny us, the United States Armed Forces, access. They want us to be driven away from their shores, not our commercial shipping. The Chinese have never stopped a commercial vessel. Never stopped any of our commercial ships. On the contrary, they want them to get in and get out. That's business. But they don't want the United States Navy sailing into their harbors. And again, you've got to go back and look at what happened to them in the past. There was this organization that was the greatest and most powerful Navy in the world. It was called the Royal Navy. And for hundreds of years, it ruled the South China Sea. It ruled the waves everywhere. They don't want to go through that again. Then there was another organization called the Imperial Japanese Navy that replaced the Royal Navy. And ultimately, thanks to its control of Taiwan that it received under a treaty in the 1890s, Taiwan became the permanent aircraft carrier for the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy. They don't want to repeat that experience. They certainly don't want our missiles on Taiwan. We've already put missiles that can threaten China, theater ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, into the Philippines. Nobody ever talks about it. We have batteries sitting there, aimed at China. For what? Are the Chinese preparing to invade the Philippines? Only if they've lost their minds. They're not interested in that. They don't want to invade Taiwan. What would that do to China's business prospects if Asia woke up to a Chinese
investment club? Today, I consider it the best investment that I've ever made. We get 4 projects presented a week by their associated CEOs. Personally, I'm completely blown away by the quality of these projects, and I know of nowhere else where I would be given this same opportunity. Each week that passes, I feel more appreciative of the fact that I'm a member of this group. The vibe was just tremendous. Everybody's on the same wavelength. We just clicked. Everybody listened to each other, enjoyed their company. It was just magical. Take action. Don't take my word for it. Due diligence you need to do. And I really hope that someday down the road I see you in the club. It far exceeded expectations, without question.
Chinese invasion of Taiwan. They'd be in the doghouse. They don't want to risk that. They do want a peaceful reunification. And that can be negotiated because they don't want it to be somebody else's permanent aircraft carrier. So let's understand that about the Chinese. Now, you said, where are we going to be in 10 years? Well, the Chinese know where they want to be. They want to be as independent as possible of us. And I think increasingly that's true for the Russians and most of the world. That's the one belt, one road. What does China not want? It doesn't want to have to fight the United States Navy over the Straits of Malacca or the Straits of Hormuz or anywhere else. So it's built the one belt, one road. Vast networks of high-speed rail, highways, where trucks and trains can move billions of dollars worth of merchandise, products, back and forth across Eurasia. In other words, they're doing what happened under the Mongolian Empire. They want a secure trade, commercial trade system. It reaches all the way down into Iran. Iran has wonderful oil. It's one of the best you could get. It's a light crude. It's the oil, by the way, in Venezuela, though it's very plentiful, is heavy, has a lot of sulfur content. So it costs you a little bit more to refine it. Refining the crude that comes out of Iran, or for that matter, out of Libya, it's very inexpensive. So the cost of refining the Venezuelan oil is probably 2 times to 3 times less expensive, the cost of refining oil in the United States is probably 2 to 3 times more expensive than Venezuela and even more expensive than Iran. Now, there's still interest in gaining control of Iran's oil fields. We've already subjugated the Emirates and Saudi Arabia. We stick a gun in their chest and they're going to get out of the way and do what we tell them. Iran's not going to do that. So the bankers in London, the bankers in New York City, along with their friends in Washington, D.C., want to reverse that. So the point is, what I'm trying to say is that Venezuela and Iran cannot be seen in isolation from these interests, nor can what's going on in the Persian Gulf. Now, where are we going to be in 10 years? That's our biggest problem, because nobody in Washington is thinking about that. America is the microwave society. Stick it in the microwave, hit the button, and 2 minutes later, you've got your meal. That's not the way the Chinese think. That's why they've invested a couple of $1 trillion in infrastructure development while we were wasting trillions in the Middle East on these pointless occupations that were never needed or never necessary. I mean, a friend of mine likes to say, Doug, you Americans are so dumb. Don't you understand that you can get all the oil you want without parking a tank on top of the oil well? He's right. We can do business with Maduro. And so he said, well, he's a communist. Well, we've done business with communists, with Nazis, with fascists, you name it. We've done business with everybody from time to time. So don't be hypocritical. We can reform these people later, maybe. But the problem that we always find is the same one. You go into a country and you say, I want to change it. How do you change 1,000 years of experience, history, and culture? How do you change geography? You can't do any of those things.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I don't know where we'll be. I know where I think we should be, but we're back to what I said at the beginning. It's time to pull inside, shed these overseas commitments, focus here at home. We need a strategy that's industrial, technological, scientific, agrarian. We used to be the biggest food producer in the world. We've shot ourselves in the foot routinely. Now people are saying, well, the Trump tariffs have killed soybeans. And we slaughtered 1 million head of cattle within the last couple of years. So now we're going to buy beef from Argentina. Why? We should be interested in feeding ourselves first. Why are we not doing these things? Well, we're too busy intervening around the world, pursuing other agendas that frankly are irrelevant to the average American.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.